Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 508 of the Fraternity Foodie podcast. I'm your host, Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our fifth book just came out. It's called Perseverance and How to Be a Great Fraternity or Sorority Alumnus. So I want you to go and pick up that book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, I'm completing my research right now on hazing in college fraternities and sororities. And the dissertation is going to be published in December in terms of the impact of hazing on today's college students. But I'm also seeing lots of research that's coming out of the military on hazing as well. Not only are they court martialing Marines who are found guilty of hazing, the military actually came out and publicly said this about hazing. They said a failure to act and respond is not only inconsistent with who we are, but it also degrades our traditions, it threatens our cohesion and morale, and it detracts from mission accomplishment. Wow. I mean, to have the military come out and say that is just mind blowing to me. A lot of our fans on social media are always like, well, how come it happens in the military if it's not okay here? And I'm like, well, actually, this is what the military is saying. So I think it's very telling in terms of what the military believes hazing does to their organization and the stress that it puts on those who serve. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that today from a military standpoint. Christopher Lee Maher went from Navy SEAler to master healer, drawing from his own journey through intense physical, mental, and emotional stress as a child, as well as in the military. Christopher developed powerful methods for transforming stress and unlocking the body's true potential. It's rooted in traditional Chinese medicine and the universal healing Ta system. Christopher's true body image system merges ancient wisdom with modern scientific principles to help his clients achieve the outcomes they desire most. Christopher's system is considered a secret weapon amongst many NCAA, professional, and Olympic athletes. Welcome to the show, Christopher.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me.
Of course, it's an honor and it's a pleasure to have you on the show. First off, I have to say thank you very much for your service in the Navy. At the age of 22, you were a Navy SEAL. You
Yes,
were in your prime. You had a sleek 1.8% body fat. I mean, that's
yes.
something I will never achieve. Pound for pound, one of the most fittest people on the entire planet. So, what made you want to be a Navy SEAL?
The thing that made me want to be a Navy SEAL is I had failed out of school, dropped out of college, and I knew I needed a challenge. I needed something that was going to push me physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I picked up a biannual magazine that one of my buddies that I went to boarding school with and went to college with, and it had these guys running down the beach with uh, logs on their shoulders, right? And as soon as I saw that, I said, okay, these people are going to be able to challenge me.
Yeah, you're not kidding. I mean, they're
Yeah,
definitely going to be
and
able to
challenge
challenge
me
you.
they did.
Oh, yes, they did. That was the understatement of the year.
Yeah. So, it's funny for me. I saw the image, but then when I got there, I was like, oh, this is different than I imagined. Like
Yeah, I
it's
would say.
full throttle every second of the day,
Yeah. I mean, you trained all day long. The
all day
full
long.
impact of that stress would eventually take a toll on you in
Yep.
terms of your physical, your mental, your energetic, and your emotional well being. So, what started happening to you as you were going through that? And then I want to know the other side of it. How did you get better?
I mean, the first thing that happened for me was I was living with a really amazing, beautiful woman. I mean, just she literally would write, I would get to work, okay? I'd open up my bag and there would always be a letter in there every morning about how important I was, about how such a great guy I was, and to always persevere. She believed in me no matter what was going on. This is every day for 4 years straight, right? And once I got out of SEAL training and I got into the SEAL teams, I started picking up some bad habits. And the first bad habit I picked up is I was out drinking and I was using alcohol to manage my stress, but I didn't know why I was drinking, right? I just thought like, yeah, this is just what you do in the SEAL teams. And I just took that too far, right? It was Tuesday night, I'm out. If there's a bar open in San Diego, I'm gonna find one if there's one open on Monday night. Now I'm up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I got work, right? I gotta be at muster at like 6:30, 7 o'clock. So I was never getting a good night, a long night of sleep, a restful night of sleep. I was on autopilot. And I think what I didn't realize is when you have so much cortisol and adrenaline running through your nervous system, you start to look for situations that match that level of stress that you have inside of you. So for me, I was in a lot of bar fights, right? Somebody'd start drinking, they'd start mouthing off, next thing, poof, 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 poof. And yeah, let's just say that I was getting drunk consistently and I was violent occasionally outside of work and I was missing a ton of sleep. And then when I got to work, I was doing the worst thing you could possibly ever do when you were on alcohol. And the worst thing you could possibly do is get up and work out while you're still drunk because the exercise is driving that alcohol deeper into your system. So whenever you're drinking, um, what happens is the liver processes the alcohol. It's called acetaldehyde. And that acetaldehyde goes up and it pickles your brain. And so I was pickling my brain and I had no idea what I was doing. And then I ended up, after I got out of the SEAL teams, my system started failing, right? I started losing my vision, was losing my hearing, needed full blown hip replacement by the time I was 33. And yes, some of that was from my childhood trauma, but I amplified all that. Like maybe those symptoms would have showed up in like maybe my late 50s or early 60s. But my symptomology started in my late 20s.
Wow. I mean, you bring up a really good point. I mean, whether we're talking about people that go into the military or people that go into college, I don't think anybody teaches us any of these coping mechanisms. So, like, the first thing people do is they grab alcohol. I mean, that's the first thing. And there are other ways we know to cope with that stress. And I think it's about teaching this is kind of what it looks like and how you should be coping with stress when you feel that way. And so that's, I think that education process is completely missing. Let's talk a little bit about some of these principles that have helped you. I think a lot of this is rooted in traditional Chinese medicine, and your true body intelligence system. It merges all of this ancient wisdom with modern science to help your clients achieve all of the outcomes that they actually want. Can you tell our audience what is the true body intelligence system?
Okay, I want to tell you that, but I think before I get there, I just keep getting this hit. There's something really important for me to tell you.
Hmm,
The best thing that ever happened to me is I got a DUI. So after I got out of the SEAL teams, I went back to college. But
hmm,
I was, even while I was in college, I was still living like I was in the SEAL teams. And I'm running track and field and training in my mind for an opportunity to get a qualifying time to get to the Olympic trials. So I'm up at UCSD. There's a college track meet and it's on a Saturday. I go down to a bar. I have a couple of drinks, two rum and cokes. I get in my car. I like to drive fast. That's one of the telltale signs. It's like there's no one on the road. Why am I driving 95 miles an hour, right?
right,
Even though I know I've had two drinks, I'm still getting wild. These guys took me down to a drunk tank. I got pulled over for speeding.
mhm,
They took me down to a drunk tank. And after I left in the morning, I went home and I had a 2 hour conversation with myself in the mirror. And during that 2 hour conversation, what I got at the end of that is I need to figure out what happened to me that caused me to get a DUI at 27 years old. Like here I am, a Navy SEAL, and now my college classmates and teammates on the track team are having to pick me up from my house and drive me to school, and they're 18 years old. Like nothing is more embarrassing, right? And so I just made a vow at that point to put down the sauce and really figure out what's going on. So the first step that I took, which is I think is really important for anyone in college right now, is I called every one of my friends up and I said, look, if you're calling me because you want to hang out and get drunk and you want to chase tail, then you should lose my number. But if you're calling up because you want to watch a football game, you want to watch a boxing match, you want to go for a hike, call me. But for anything else, don't call me. Let me ask me this question. Did anyone of the like 30 or 40 people that I called that I used to party with ask me if any of them ever called me back?
No, they didn't.
None of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, you bring up a valid point. I mean, we are who we're surrounded by, right? So I think we have to constantly do that assessment and figure out, are the people that are surrounding us, are they adding to our life or are they subtracting from our life? And you have to do that assessment all the time. And
All
I
the time.
think you would find that, yeah, there are going to be people in your life that are trying to pull you down.
Yep. And I'm the type of person, I always need a good, strong slap. But when I get that slap, I wake up very quickly, like immediately.
Yeah.
So I literally went from drinking and partying all until Saturday. And then by Sunday, that whole phase of my life stopped,
Wow. I mean,
right?
okay, so I mean, you've obviously been through it. I mean, you've clearly taken us through that. What is the true body intelligence system?
The True Body Intelligence System is a suite of tools that I created, and a couple that I learned and then advanced.
Mhm.
And what it does is the True Body Intelligence System is here to help you reach your maximal potential by locating what I call long-term, unrelieved or unresolved daily and lifetime accumulated stress. Because the key is the reason why I was doing the activities that I did them to the extreme that I was doing them is because I didn't realize the impact of long term childhood stress and unrelieved trauma. And so, true body intelligence, regardless of where you're at in your life, whether you want to be an Olympic champion, whether you want to have a master's degree, like whatever your goal is,
Mhm.
okay, there's always something in your past that's in the way because everyone has had childhood trauma. And what I mean by that is this: when you're a child and you're crawling across the floor because you see something really shiny, there's a vase on the table and you're crawling up to grab it and your mom sees you at the last second out of the corner of her eye and yells out, Michael, no. Well, that volume of her voice sends shockwaves into that child's nervous system.
Mhm.
He falls down back on his butt and he starts crying immediately. Okay. Of
Mhm.
course, the mother's attempting to give the child a course correction, but the volume of her voice puts shock in her nervous system. And then he's informing her that that was too harsh for him because parents don't realize that a child's nervous system is as fragile as a butterfly's wings. So, true body intelligence is really in place to deal with all the stress, all the harshness, all the trauma that you dealt with from womb until 13. So let's say uh, you're a single mom, you are living with your parents, and your dad gets drunk, he comes home, um, and he's on a ripper, and he starts yelling at your mom. Well, that impacts the child. And so everybody has something in their history that was stressful for them. And then they develop these coping strategies. And what children will are attempting to do is to avoid these simple things: avoidance, punishment, rejection, humiliation, violence, and pain. Every child will do everything they can to avoid that. And as soon as they do that, they start building a very successful coping strategy. And that coping strategy that they develop is their winning strategy for life.
Mm.
And so when people come to me, well, guess who comes to me? People who are already really successful, right? And you're sitting across from this person, you're like, you're a billionaire. Okay, you're in my office. Let's figure out what's going on. Yeah, I don't know how to connect with my children, and my wife is ready to leave me.
Ah,
And okay, well, of course, you don't know how to connect with your children because your children, your parents didn't know how to connect with you as a child, and you learned to withdraw into yourself because the environment was too stressful for you. So, what we do in True Body Intelligence is we locate where all the pain is in your body, and then we take that pain out of your body through very specific techniques that I've been developing for the last 23 years.
wow, that's absolutely amazing. For those of us in the industry, what we're talking about in terms of childhood, they're called ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And everybody's gone through them in some degree. And that's kind of the point, when we talk about hazing, whether it be in the military or whether it be in college, you have no idea what these students have been through when they come to you in college. They've been through like all kinds of things, and you think you know that person, but you really don't. You really don't understand, what Christopher is talking about in terms of the ACEs and what they've experienced as little children. You have no idea. And so you really don't know what that trauma that you're now, inflicting on this person, what it's going to trigger in them. And that's the danger when we start talking about hazing, is that you really don't have any idea what they've been through and what that's going to trigger. And so,
Yeah,
another reason why we talk about it and get rid of that completely. This is all really fascinating to me, and I want to talk more about something specific that we can do to cope. Right? We know that alcohol is not the answer. Like we know that. So if the college students are under a lot of stress, they're stressed
hmm,
from their finances, the rising cost of tuition. It's crazy expensive. I have two kids in college right now. It's bananas how much they're charging. Various demands on their time, the rigors of getting this college degree. What are three ways that the students who are listening, how can they incorporate breath to overcome the chronic stress that they're under?
yeah. I mean, the first thing and the most obvious thing is you have to do an assessment of what your stress level is, right?
Mhm.
And if you can do that and take the time to do it, it's easy. So you ask if you're starting to feel anxiety and your anxiety is a 10 out of 100, then you're going to breathe deep and slow for 60 seconds, right? If your anxiety is at a 50 out of 100, which I would say probably the average college student today is running somewhere between at least 30 and 80. Okay. Well, when your anxiety is high, it's letting you know that your emotional body isn't able to process everything that's going on in the social environment that you're in, and you need to step away and take some breaths. So let's say, for instance, you're going to a Penn State football game, right? Well, guess what? There's 70,000 people there. And if you were bullied in school by boys, when you go to that event, your hypervigilance is going to start turning on and your anxiety is going to start ramping up. And the second that you notice that, you need to take in a deep breath and breathe out slowly. Now, if it's super, super high, you need to breathe out faster. So if my anxiety is a 10 out of 10, right? If my anxiety is a 2 out of 10, and breathe relative to the level of anxiety, angst, and or brain fog that you're having. That's something that we don't talk about in terms of a system where you just start checking out mentally, because everybody's body processes stress differently. The thinking types, the analytical thinking types, they go for brain fog. The emotional social types, they go for anxiety. The physical types, they go for anger. And then the spiritual types, they go for self-righteousness. right? And so you need to determine, like, well, what's my go-to? Do I go to anger? Do I go to anxiety? Do I go to fear, or do I go to self-righteousness? Because that will let you know more. And then you're just going to breathe until you feel those thoughts or those feelings begin to diminish. And
This is
that's
really
that
interesting.
yeah, yeah, that's the most important strategy that you could apply. Assess quickly. Wow, I'm being really judgmental. Let's say you're a young woman, you're going to a sorority party, and the second you walk in, you're judging every girl in the room, what she's wearing, how she's speaking, who she's talking to. Well, now you know you're in a self-righteous state. Go to the bathroom or step outside, sit on the porch or take a walk around the block, take some breaths, start to realize the only reason why you're being the only reason why you're being excessively critical is because you feel threatened by something in the environment. So remove yourself, get clear on what it is that's stressing you out, breathe through it, and then enter back into the party in awareness. So now, when the judgment comes up, you get an opportunity to reformat that sentence that came up. So you're like, oh my God, ugh, she's such a bitch. Great. Then step outside, ask yourself, why are you threatened by her? I don't know why I'm threatened by her. But in the meantime, keep taking some breaths, keep asking yourself the question. You're going to figure it out. And then you'll be able to go, oh, wow, there's no need for me to be threatened by her. Oh, I'm threatened by her because I figured out that she's always so willing to be honest emotionally. And instead of being honest emotionally, externally, emotionally, you're dishonest to everyone around you. So no matter what's going on, you put on the good face. If she's in a nasty little mood, she wears her moods on her sleeves. So she's going to be threatening you. That's just a prime example. If you're someone who you get into an environment like a Penn State football game and you were bullied by the jocks at school, well, when you get in that environment, there's a lot of big athletic jockey people that are there. You're going to feel stressed. Your anxiety is going to come up because you have something from your past that you haven't resolved. And all anxiety stems from something unresolved in your past. So take a deep breath, tell your body you're safe. No one has a right to bully you, and look people directly in their eye, communicate clearly. And if you're with a friend, you could just simply say to the friend, look, I don't know why I have this anxiety, but every time we come to events like this, I get really stressed. Just by naming it out loud and being transparent, it will start to resolve. But the more you hold it in and contain yourself, that containment strategy is going to amplify the anxiety and or the fear or the self-righteousness or the anger. And then it's going to come out in an explosive manner the second you mix that with alcohol. Now you're at risk because you're never doing a clear self-assessment on how you're feeling.
I want to talk to you a little bit about fitness as well, because obviously, you're into fitness. I see so many people that are fit in college, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're actually healthy. So I'm wondering, how do we know if our fitness regimen, whatever that looks like, how do we know if it's actually working against us?
Yeah, it's easy. With fitness is very simple. If you're waking up in the morning and you're exhausted, your workout regimen is too intense. If you wake up and you have any level of joint pain, your fitness regimen is too intense. Okay? If you're using exercise as a means of avoiding clear communication about the things that have you stressed out, then your fitness regimen is now shifted from a positive stress management tool into a negative stress management tool. The human body, anyone who studies fitness will tell you this, 45 minutes. Once you go past 45 minutes, you're digging into your lifetime energy reserves instead of your daily energy reserves. And so if you got pain in your body, You're using it as an opportunity to avoid something that you have to address, and or you're waking up exhausted, your fitness regimen is too intense. Back it off, right? More, less is more. The challenge is we're Americans. Okay? Anywhere else you go in the world, people aren't focused on like their image. Like if you go to Germany, there's like a little bit of that, but these people, they're exercising because of the ideal that it's good and it's better for you. If you're going to the gym because it's all about the way that you look, then at some point you're going to fall away from that exercise routine. And then your body's going to start to get a little soft. And then you're going to be using exercise to fortify your image. And Americans always think that we just have to work harder and do more in order to be better. And the truth is you can have that mindset for a while, but the moment you get your first bit of pain in your knee, that's the last indicator that something is wrong. And most people think that that's the first indicator.
Wow, that's deep stuff. You've obviously been through a whole bunch of trauma in your life, and I know our listeners, they've also been through some trauma in their lives as well. Do you feel like there's a way to heal those deep emotional wounds without going to therapy?
Um, well, when I look at something, I think the most important thing to do is attack something from all sides. And so if you now look, you're in college, so do you have a lot of money to be able to go sit down and sit with a therapist? I mean, if your parents are middle high class, I mean middle to high class in terms of financially, yeah. But if you're middle class to like lower middle class, no. They don't have an extra, $800 a month
No.
to be sending you somewhere. So, the question is, what can you do? You can sit down and you can talk with a friend, right? Find somebody you trust. Take time to build that relationship before you start blurting things out because you're in college. Your feelings are going to really be hurt if you overhear a conversation that is about you from information that you told someone you trusted. And now they broke that confidence, and then you're going to feel even more isolated. And so I say, find someone that you can talk to, that you really trust. Maybe it's your brother, maybe it's your sister, maybe it's your high school friend, like anyone, and get what's on your chest off your chest. That's the very first step. Now, the other things that you can do are you can take a breathwork class, okay? And I'm sure at every university now in the country, there's someone teaching breathwork. You can take a yoga class. You might be able to go to a sound healing class, and which is great. People that are in that niche, if you go up to them and you go, look, I'm going to college, and to be honest with you, I can only afford $2 to come to your class. You are never ever going to hear one of those people say no. They're going to go, look, as long as you're consistent, your $2 is great. But if you're here for a day and then you show up like 6 weeks later, no, you have to pay full price. But if you're willing to be consistent, I'm willing to invest in you. So find a breathwork class, find a yoga class, find a sound healing class, find a meditation class, and inform these people what your financial situation is. And they will meet you where you're at. Just trust that the universe is looking out for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really good advice. And listen, if you're paying tuition anyway on a college campus, obviously they do have a counseling center there. So take advantage of those resources. Your tuition is definitely paying for it anyway. So you might as well take advantage of the resources while you can. And then, yeah, I mean, take a course. I know that I took a yoga course as a senior in college. And I tell you what, it changed my life. It changed my life. So try it. And I don't look at myself as somebody who is overly spiritual. I don't look at myself as somebody that would naturally gravitate to yoga. All right. I just don't. But it changed my life. I mean, I could literally put myself to sleep in about 10 seconds using the techniques that she taught me as a college student. All right. And I tell you, it will change your life. And I get like great rest because of her. And that was 30 years ago. Okay. So I'm telling you, it'll change your life. So, anyway, great advice there. I love it. You also have a book out. It's called Free for Life. Tell our audience, what would our listeners learn by reading your book?
Well, the first third of the book is an autobiography, right? The second part of the book is philosophy and science. And the third, the last part of the book, is teaching you about systems that would help you become free for life and reduce your lifetime accumulated stress load and your daily stress load, and then tips that I have and deep insights that I think are really important for every human to learn so that they can move through the world and have realistic expectations around the things that happen in their life that cause them stress. Because without the education, people are never going to take heartfelt action to their own benefit. So I give you a profound education using my own story and my own experiences. And look, I'm not that type of person. I'm not the guy that wants to talk about himself, right? I'm doing this out of service because I was able to get out of the hell that I was in. And I think it would be prudent action to take for me to be able to offer other people an opportunity to be able to get out of what they're suffering from in the convenience of their own home if there's someone who's extremely private like I am.
Really good stuff. I love all of it. So, if our listeners, if they want to connect with you in order to buy the book, it's called Free for Life, or maybe they get you to come and speak on their college campus. Where can they go to connect with you?
They can go to truebodyintelligence.com. It's very simple. The book is there. All you have to do is shoot me an email. As soon as you get at the very top of the website is the email address and the phone number. Leave us a message. Someone will get back to you in a reasonable amount of time. My team is very good at that.
They are really, really good. I've worked with them to get you on the show. They were great to work with. So go to truebodyintelligence.com. Go and pick up the book. Christopher, man, oh man, listen, I appreciate all the work that you're doing.
I
Go
have
ahead.
one more thing.
Yeah.
I'm so new to social media, right? You can go to Christopher Lee Maher, Maher, on Instagram, right? You can look True Body Intelligence up on Facebook. You can go to Christopher Lee Maher for TikTok. And I'm always giving you tips every other day. So
I love
you can have me in your back pocket reminding you of the things that cause you stress and what actions that you need to take in order to diminish yours so that you can have the life that it is you really want.
I love it. I am going onto Instagram and TikTok right now, and I'm going to follow you. So you're going to get the notification that Greek University is following you. I can't wait to have you in my back pocket so that way I can open it up and feel really good about every day that I get started. So thank you for all the work that you're doing. And
Thank you.
so, yeah, of course. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Christopher Lee Maher, I want you to go and like it, and I want you to share it with other college students that need his help in terms of dealing with the stress that they're under. And so, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast.